The Bitcoin Talk Show, the worldwide original for over the last 5 years. The sweetest Satoshis, the boldest Bitcoins, the chillest cypherpunk chat. I'd like to welcome our loiterers. Joshua from Voltoro.
How you going, folks? From Berlin, here I am.
All right. Bitcoin Blake.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me back online. It's been a while and I'm excited to be here.
And our very own Thomas from the World Crypto Network.
Belgium!
And I am your humble vizier, Gabriel from Network Magic. We'll be opening up the show with live callers today. Take it away, Thomas.
That's right. You can call us right now on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. Be sure to give us a thumbs up down below so that more people will find the show. That's all I have to say. Now we're waiting on you. Waiting. Let me unmute the callers. No? Do you hear it?
Thumbs up and smash the bell. Thumbs up and smash the bell before you know if the content is good or not, because that's, just do me that solid. I think that you could do me that solid, everybody. Go ahead and smash that bell.
We had 7 callers waiting before the show, but apparently our engineer has been having some issues with the phone lines. Apparently there was a phone tower went out in Greenland, and that's caused a chain reaction. What's that, Tammy? Our producer's talking to me right now. Why don't you take it, Joshua? You have anything to add?
Screw it. Let's do it live. I'm doing it live.
And we're doing it live. You can call us now live on Skype at World Crypto Network. Let's check the price of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is $6,575. Looks like it went up a little bit to $6,590 and recently dropped a bit from $6,532. What do you guys think? Should we just look at charts that predict the past all day? Oh, look at the past. It looks the same. It's always the past.
I like a lot of technical analysis. The more technical analysis that we can do on charts and then try to draw lines on them. Like my investment thesis in Bitcoin doesn't mean shit. What I can draw in terms of pictures on a chart, that's what you want to look at. And then you can know exactly what you're going to do ephemerally, and you can make lots and lots and lots of money day trading with high frequency stuff. It's really, it's really the path to the future, looking at charts and drawing pictures.
Some of these trolls in the chat are trying to say we're not live right now. You mother. We are definitely live. There's just a little delay to beep us out.
Belgium beats Brazil 2-0. How's that for proof of live? That
exactly. Couldn't have been more than a couple hours
Uruguay.
ago.
Minutes. I know. Unbelievable to see Brazil taken down by Belgium. Big win for Belgium. Now we're going to see Belgium versus France. I have no idea who to root for there. I had a train stopover in Belgium, but I actually spent time in France. So it's going to be tough to root against France there.
So hi, 23 Uvas and Usagi Nami. Appreciate you guys dropping in. Now, do you guys have any questions? We're looking at the live chat. Our Skype line obviously got shut down by the NSA. So if you guys have any questions, oh, there it is right there. Guys, this is your time to put a poopy emoticon or swear words.
I know, so many live streams and so many reruns. It's almost like real television, isn't it? It's almost like they play content 24/7 so that more people will watch it. I would hate that. If there was Bitcoin to talk about 24/7 and people were here in the chat talking about it, I would be, that is the worst thing in the world. People talking about Bitcoin all day long. That just,
I've never heard you get that angry before. What is Bitcoin porn? What's that one tab there, Thomas? What is that? Prawn? Is that
purchasable? Prawn purchasable through Bitcoin. I mean, that's my most important tab, because I don't want to be going through Visa and have this big paper trail. I just use the Bitcoin, and then there you go. I mean, I would hodl the Bitcoin, but porn is just so much more valuable than Bitcoin, and it's so rare and scarce. I mean, it's really hard to find porn, so it's really, really great to be able to spend my hard-earned Bitcoin on something that gives me such an ephemeral pleasure set. It's really a good deal on my end.
Hey, look, I'm trying to
inject
spread the
dopamine
whole
directly into
concept
the
of the
brain.
rehodl. You know, once you've spent the Bitcoin, get it back. Because let's start moving that stuff. And pawns, you know, there you go. Started on there.
There's an
Rehodl it.
interesting article in the Wall Street Journal the other day that said that 1/5 of all Bitcoins are reported as missing. It was funny because there's kind of a mix of emotions during the article about it being a good and a bad thing. It's like, it seems like it's just mostly a good thing. Like if a whole bunch of the gold in the world were destroyed, but if gold had no utility aside from a storage of value, that would be a net benefit without a whole lot of drawbacks that I can see. Am I missing the big picture? What are the drawbacks to 1/5 of the Bitcoin missing if they stay missing? Are there drawbacks that I'm not aware of?
Yeah,
If
for the
it's your
people who had it, they definitely had a drawback because they don't got it no more.
Or it's just been offline for so long or in cold storage for so long that it seems like it's missing and it could come back, which leads you to the thing of, well, what if it all comes back at once? That'll be a huge tide on the markets, and that could cause, you know, prices to go up and down. But
this is also known as the Satoshi put.
yes.
Well, the EOS in EOS you can't. They just bring it back, or they steal it from you if you don't move it for 3 years. It's incredible that we're heading towards part of the crypto network is you know, the people that are using this stuff are heading back to sort of a centralized control mechanism way. I don't understand why they don't just use centralized servers actually.
Well, you know, when I give
to the bank,
control
so you can roll it back.
Daniel Larimer doesn't control them. He wants them.
He wants to print it too, yeah.
When I give
he's going to do a new coin called DAN, DAN. It's going to be way better than EOS, DAN.
Yeah, I wonder what it stands for.
I'm sure the chat will have some ideas. Tell us what DAN stands for in the chat. Don't ask now. Doubt any number.
Yeah,
buyers enumerous? No, doubt any number. We're gonna come up with a new shit coin.
Dead and nasty.
That is really good, actually. It's the one coin, the coin for enumerates. Can't count higher than one? Why look past one coin then?
My favorite is billion coin because it's going to be worth $1 billion per coin for reasons.
Leave it to the chat to go there. Digital anal nuance. Very nice, chat. Anal on the first one. Good job.
Good job there, chat.
Like Warcraft trade chat.
Nuance, huh? That's kind of a strange choice.
Now, folks, the other news on the scene is that Satoshi's back. There's a new Satoshi. There's a new fake Toshi writing a book. And obviously, it's just some dude that, you know, wants to make some book sales. But what do you guys think?
Oh, he's the real deal. He's really Satoshi. Satoshi, you know, invented all this stuff, laid low for just a little while, and then was like, it's time to cash in on some book revenue, because that's what Satoshi needs. Satoshi needs money. And if anything, it's going to motivate him to come out.
I mean, authors, they make upwards of $5,000, $10,000 sometimes.
You just can't walk past that sort of dosh, especially if you move. Come on, if Satoshi moved his original coins, it would be worth, like, Bitcoin would just crash like anything else. Maybe that's his thing.
You think? Do you think it would? Do you think that the reveal of the Satoshi put being active and in the game would cause a price crash?
I think so. I mean, you know, that's why he can't walk past a $10,000 book deal.
He needs that money. And remember, he just wanted to be a published author, like inventing Bitcoin, changing the world, disappearing for almost 10 years now, not leaving a trace behind. That wasn't enough for him. He was like, I could also write a novel. Oh, I'm in.
And be my own ghostwriter.
And it wasn't a risk management strategy. He forgot the password to his computer, and so that's why he's been laying low, because, you know, it's sometimes passwords are difficult to remember, and Satoshi, you know, was human like anybody else. So now that he remembers his computer password, it's like, okay, it's time to write a book. I mean, you know, why wouldn't you do that?
Can you bring your dog up to the camera, please, Blake? So what is going on with the Skype? What is the Skype username that you guys, the lines are open. What's the Skype username?
World Crypto Network, all one word. You can install Skype for free. You can add us for free, and you can call us for free. It's an amazing system. No calls.
Benjamin Franklin, the poodle, really likes Bitcoin. Bitcoin has afforded his daddy the ability to stay home more than I would have been able to with other mediums. And so he's one happy puppy. He's one happy poodle. I think that one of the great use cases of Bitcoin is to hodl over long horizons and to have a hedge over other things that are less responsible, isn't it? Yes, other things aren't as responsible. So that's one of the really, really great things about Bitcoin. My dog is happy. And when something can be a powerful enough technology to make my dog happy, I mean, he doesn't know about Bitcoin. He just knows that he's happy.
That is true. You can't go past arguments like that.
Well, he knows about Dogecoin.
Yeah.
He barks at shitcoins. He's not. He doesn't know why. He just knows that he has a very visceral negative reaction to the. Oh, he's giving you the stink eye there.
I saw him looking at us.
Yeah. He's like, Dogecoin, how dare you?
And poor Cat coin never came out, never got off the ground. Doge definitely more popular than Cat. Also interesting, I was listening to some old Bitcoin group on the other stream, and I heard my dog, who has since passed away, barking in the background. And it was super fun. I was like, oh, I know that dog.
Oh.
But yeah,
Oh,
it's been
man.
a long time.
That was Hank the dog, right?
Yep, Hank dog.
I got to meet Hank dog many times. It was a good dog. It was a very, very good dog.
Very big dog. But we've got almost 93 live viewers. Welcome to this afternoon edition of Bitcoin Talk Show. We have nothing planned. We've done no research, but the phone lines are open at SKYPE World Crypto Network. Ask us a question. They're talking about altcoins in the chat as always. People want to know our opinion on EOS. Pretty sure everyone thinks it's a scam. They just ran an incredible year-long crowd sale. Then they released their testnet. Sorry, they don't have a testnet. Then they released their original product only to fall flat and crash and look like a bunch of fools. And they don't have a testnet. Maybe now they're building a testnet. But once again, all these stupid altcoins go up. So it's not impossible that EOS goes to $100. I don't think that it'll stay there. But if you get it now and you sell it then, you could have more Bitcoin. So,
or maybe it'll just crash from here. You don't really know.
I mean, I think the interesting part here on an economic set, in an economic sense, is that a lot of these ICOs that are running on EOS now are just basically going for the airdrop model. And what I find interesting is that when everybody airdrops, nobody has really an incentive to go out there and shill the product that you've airdropped onto them, because they're like, oh, it's just some free coins. I don't know. I'll just hope that it goes up. Whereas if you buy something, I think there's at least some chance that you sort of invested a little bit. Even if you've taken another shit coin that's pumped and put that value, so-called value, into an ICO, at least then you feel like you've got some sort of opportunity cost that you want to go out there and try to make this project work by sort of marketing it or doing whatever you do. But with all these thousands of airdrops that are happening, I think what will happen, we'll just see sort of a lack of any value actually being created in these. But I don't know, I could be proven wrong.
Well, what's interesting too is that in the age of information, which I think that we're firmly in right now, I've said this a lot, but the scarce resource isn't necessarily information, it's attention. Attention is the scarce resource. So when you're churning out all these airdrops and all these new products, it's becoming difficult to vet through and look through all of the nonsense. Like there's that, what's the phenomenon known, like where they talk about how much effort it takes to debunk things versus how much effort it takes to just be correct. Yeah, it's a huge mental overhead.
This is known as the bullshit asymmetry.
Yeah, very well said. Beautifully illustrated.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I think what will happen is eventually we'll get to a point where airdrops just have no value at all again, unless you've already got a product that's actually working and useful. Because I mean, tokenizing stuff really is cool. Like there's some really cool things you can do with tokenizing some digital things, because for the first time ever, we've got digital assets that can't be copied. So stuff, obviously you can do things with them, but to just basically dump millions of dollars worth of these things or millions of these units around, actually more to the point, is really just flooding the market full of nonsense, and no one really attaches value to that.
Does anybody think that that the rally is over? That now that we've bounced off of the high 57, that we're going to go back down, or do you think we're going to continue to go up past the 7K mark? Everybody in technical analysis land sounds pretty bearish, but I'm more of the long-term hodl gang that thinks, well, my investment thesis hasn't changed, so I'm going to go ahead and take profits when it's high and continue to hodl when it's low. What are your guys' thoughts on the TA crew being pretty ephemerally bearish here in the short to near term?
Thomas told me that all of his whale friends are just lining up several $1 billion to buy, so I'm going with Thomas.
Thank you, Thomas. That's good info.
They're getting ready. They've got their Lambos in the back alley. I like to always say that thing everyone says, 1 Bitcoin is 1 Bitcoin.
Yeah,
1 to 1.
I think there's the fundamental difference between value and price, and we're really seeing a lot of work being put into second layer solutions. We implemented a Lightning Network. We were the first exchange to do that, and seeing the use cases coming up for that are really interesting too. Being able to take order trades directly from an order book, being able to buy coffee with those things as well, straight from your wallet. I just think that people aren't equating the price to the value anymore in these sort of bearish markets. So the value is going up, especially with the amount of work that's being technically put into these protocols. It really allows a vast new amount of use cases. Well, actually, a lot of the use cases that were originally for Bitcoin went away during the lead up to the fork with Bitcoin Cash, because a lot of those use cases couldn't be used. The promise of really cheap transactions, the promise of fast transactions, they all disappeared in that moment. But they were ready to come back with the layer 2 solutions, and they have come back now. So we're starting to see some of those things come back. For instance, being able to read an article per chapter, so just one page is one Satoshi, and as you scroll down, it starts chewing up Satoshis in real time. These are all use cases that were dreamt of, these nano transactions, and these are coming back now. So I think as we're down in this bear market, I think it's really important not to only see the price, but actually see the value.
And there are a lot of people that have been calling this bear market, and they keep calling for the same number over and over again, and it keeps not happening. And you have to say, how long do these calls go on? Oh, you made a call back in January. Oh, you made a call back last year. I made a call 5 years ago. I told you to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin was around $300. Therefore, I'm always right? No matter what.
It was like 100, actually.
Yeah, it was 100, even that 100. I mean, it was even lower. Like, it was a good buy then. So it just seems like, yeah. I mean, is that the thing? Am I the king now? Like, is everyone going to listen to me? I don't need charts. I don't need anything. I told you to buy Bitcoin. It worked out, didn't it?
Dino's got a question in the chat. Sorry to interrupt you there, Thomas, but I'd like to address it. He says we need more retail outlets accepting Bitcoin to have real world adoption. Your thoughts? Well, here's my thoughts, Dino. That's kind of jumping the gun, to be honest. Bitcoin needs to prove its store of value use case to a very, very strong degree before we get to that network effect of merchants. And even there's several other network effects. We got the developer network effect. Trace Meyer is a guy that you should listen to, who talks about all this stuff. And there's many. He delineates specifically 7 different network effects. And merchant adoption, I believe, is the very last. And it's also the least important, in order to get this commodity being used as the first digital commodity to be used as money. So I would say, no, we don't need it for real world adoption. Real world adoption is on a retail level and on a use case level is happening for exchange in, extremely volatile situations and crashing economies like Venezuela. But in my opinion, merchant adoption is not what's going to really drive this. One thing that I'd like to lead the conversation to now on that kind of topic is closed loops of economic activity. I think that is really, if you're going to talk about, oh, merchants should accept, that's really just like one little angle, like a little sliver of what the merchant adoption network effect really represents. And this is having entire economic cycles happen purely on Bitcoin. What I mean by that is the factory pays its suppliers Bitcoin to get the raw materials. The raw material people are paying, they're selling their raw material and they're paying their workers in Bitcoin. The workers then go to the store and buy things with Bitcoin, and then the store buys from the factory in Bitcoin. Then you create these virtuous cycles. And what happens when you have trade and commerce is wealth is created. People combine their labor with materials in order to create wealth with goods and services. And so what happens when you have a closed loop, when all the parties in that situation use one asset, is wealth gets created. Now with the dollar, central banks draw off that extra created wealth and then some, and then 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 more percent, and give it all, and their friends all bask in that money, and they all have free loans, and they create money out of thin air, and they steal all that amazing productivity and wealth creation that happens year after year. Literally in a year, your labor and the materials create wealth that could recirculate in society if we had an asset that couldn't be devalued at will. Your thoughts?
Gabriel brings up a good point that even if a business took Bitcoin, they couldn't use the Bitcoin to buy more widgets from their supplier. That's always been one of the problems, like Overstock years ago when they started taking Bitcoin and even holding a large amount of Bitcoin, they were in trouble because they couldn't use that money to buy more widgets. They always need to be buying more widgets and selling more widgets, presumably making money on it. Going back to the merchant topic, they tried this in San Francisco. They went around, they gave everyone tablets, and all these businesses were set up, and then no one shopped there. They tried it again in Florida with the Bitcoin Bowl and BitPay. They went around, they had like one party at the place, and no one shopped there ever again. The tablets gathered dust. The employee who knew how to work the tablet quit. All of these businesses went down because the other side of the equation isn't there. So as much as we want to say merchant adoption seems really simple, ask anybody that put a Bitcoin accepted here sticker on their business. They get 1 visit a year. They get 2 visits a year. It's just not there. It's a chicken and an egg problem. We need everyone to have Bitcoin before everyone can shop with Bitcoin. So as you can see, we got big problems. Whereas what Gabriel's saying, store of value, having a savings account, having an investment. Remember, you want to have many investments, some in, Amazon and Google or whatever, the mainstream stocks, some in a mutual fund or maybe a T-bond or something, some safe savings investments, but then have some risk and put it into your Bitcoin savings account as some risk and see how it goes. I think there's a lot of growth still before we get the merchants going. Let's go to Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take the juxtaposition here and say that actually we need not merchants. I don't think they're the ones taking it. When it's always been freelancers, people without people that are just single units in an economy where they're like doing some graphic design, they're native to the internet, they're perpetual travelers. They need something that they can accept from anywhere without PayPal getting shut down. And I think at the same time, though, the notion of a store of value, why is something valuable? Well, yeah, of course it's valuable because no one can take it away from you. And it's valuable because you can, if you want, move it internationally without permission. It's programmable and all this good stuff that we love. But at the same time, I think the biggest value will come when I can buy something with it, when I know that I can get this and use it at any time. And it is a chicken and egg problem, but I think where the...
I don't agree with that. I don't agree that it's a chicken and egg problem, but I'll let you finish before I say.
What about my turn?
But the store of value is an interesting one because I think really where the store of value does start to actually really come in is with the layer 2 solutions, because what we're doing is almost not really locking it in, but we're putting it into a smart contract, and that is storing that value ready to use in real time. And that's really where the store of value starts to play a big role in this economy.
Go ahead, Gabe. You are
well, you know what? Actually, it is a chicken and egg issue, but what people don't realize is the chicken and egg conundrum, as I like to call it, has a solution. And that is, you have to rise a level or go down a level in the hierarchy in order to solve it. That's often the case with problems where if you're trying to use the tools that are directly related to where you think the problem is, you'll constantly be chasing your tail. But when the problem is actually in the relation between one level of the hierarchy and another, or between several levels of the hierarchy, so you have to actually think in a multi-level way, and that's scaling too, right? We talk about scaling, like you just mentioned, layer 2, right? We divide software into separation of, we separate the concerns of software, and we use principles of modularity in order to layer these systems atop one another so that they can maintain their integrity within them and relate to each other, and we can have more power and flexibility and create these solutions with more pieces. And so this is what I was saying with the different network effects. The merchant adoption / economic cycle network effect is a late game thing. We need to get a lot of other things in place. And Edward is on the chat. He goes by Renegade Investor, and he just pointed out, which is great, Bitcoin will be adopted by consumers and merchants when it goes from Gresham's law to Tier's law, and good money finally drives out bad. That's a late stage.
I thought for sure Gabriel was going to say it's not a chicken and an egg problem. It's an egg and a chicken problem. Totally different situation. Let's go to Blake Anderson. Go ahead.
Well, early on, like talking about merchants and merchant adoption and stuff like that, the merchants have a lot of really, really good systems and Visa and stuff to be able to get a lot of stuff done. Yeah, Visa and MasterCard and transaction fees aren't super cheap in gas stations and stuff. Sometimes you'll see the sign, below a certain amount, we won't accept payment cards.
Gas station should accept Bitcoin. Gas station should accept Bitcoin. Gas station should accept Bitcoin.
That would be huge if you could buy petrol or fuel with Bitcoin. I think that would be a huge thing. But one of the really, really early on people that did a lot of evangelizing for Bitcoin that people have almost forgotten about was Stefan Molyneux. And you can feel about him however you want to, but early on he evangelized for Bitcoin and then accepted Bitcoin donations. And not a lot of people had Bitcoin, so he would constantly tell people about it and what it was good for and why he liked it. And eventually Stefan Molyneux ended up with himself a lot, like a very, very significant amount of Bitcoin, to the extent that I contacted him and was like, I looked at your donation address and it has so much Bitcoin in it that that's going to actually discourage people from donating. And it's a big security risk. You should probably chunk that out, put it into cold storage, something. And so I think that when you get to a situation where entrepreneurs and peer-to-peer and individuals, like the decentralization elements of the code and the platform, rhyme with the decentralized kind of independent elements of sociology and with human action. And if you are kind of like they were alluding to before, one of the people that are doing things like as an independent artist or an independent like spokesperson, and you're in the realm of the right type of philosophy or the right type of technology, that really does jumpstart the amount of the closed loop cycle that Gabe was talking about that you can get to happen in the space. And I again, the example that I have offhand of that happening is Stefan Molyneux really did a great job of early on evangelizing and collecting a lot of Bitcoin.
Why did he turn his back on it? Because I remember very clearly from one day to the next, he said, I've gotten a bunch of feedback about my content. I'm going to be shifting things up. And from one day to the next, he stopped calling himself a libertarian. He got into Donald Trump and he became a right authoritarian.
So weird.
I know. And then he hasn't mentioned Bitcoin once since then. Do you have any idea what the fuck happened?
He got hacked.
He got hacked mentally. No, I think what happened, and this is completely a guess of mine. So I mean, please don't, he got cancer, I think right here, and then he had to go and get chemotherapy. And what chemotherapy does is not great. And so I think that he was weakened by it. He has a family to support, and I think that what he thought was, I need to start appealing more to a lower common denominator to get my voice out further. And I think his rationalization for that was, even if my message is watered down a little bit, hopefully with a wider audience, if they're getting any part of the message at all, that will move them towards, shifting the Overton window back towards center. I don't agree with that. I don't think that you should appeal to a lower common denominator to necessarily try to get more people at the expense of your message. But I can also understand kind of why he did it. I can't imagine having a family and getting cancer and what type of fear and anxiety that would put into you. But at the same time, he had a lot of Bitcoin, so that kind of is compromising that position, because he should have been well enough off. I don't know.
No, he did get hacked. He did.
Oh, he did get hacked. I never heard about that he got hacked.
Yeah,
I didn't ever hear about that. That makes me really sad, because I pestered him basically until he almost blocked me about moving that over, and that's very sad to me.
Yeah, he lost a bunch. But yeah, it was very strange. I mean, he got really, really anti-woman, and he went full Trump. And the thing was, when Ron Paul was running, he was just totally anti anyone voting for Ron Paul. And then all of a sudden, when Trump came along, he was like, Trump! I remember thinking, what? Okay. All right. Ciao.
Yeah, I don't know about him getting sick and all that. I hope he gets better. But I did had to defoo him. I had to kick him out of my family because of all the people that he defooed. And I don't know if you guys have heard, but they had this strange concept where you could cut off your family because they weren't libertarian enough. You had some kind of a test you had to pass, and if you failed the test, you're out of the family. And I just think that's really damaging and creepy and a little Scientology-esque there, where you're saying those are suppressive people. Those are SPs. You can't hang out with them anymore because they're going to get in the way of your pure libertarian thought. So I was very much against that whole idea. I don't.
Well, and especially and then on the back end, have him appeal to a lower common denominator, for him to make that strong of a case. Like, if your family isn't libertarian, or if they're abusing you or whatever, defoo them. And then on the backside of that, watering down his message, it's like that combination of things represented a level of hypocrisy that I think a lot of people really, really got angry about.
What's defoo?
Kick out, cut out, kind of.
I forget what the foo means, but it's like the SPs in Scientology. If you have someone in your family that's not a Scientologist, obviously there's a chance they're going to make you stray from the path. So they cut all those people out. In this defooing, it was like, and they would have all these stories. My father was good to me for 20 years, but he disagrees with me on libertarians, so he's out. And people get upset in the chat when I talked about it and stuff last time, but still, that's not right. I mean, you can't be. Yeah, if people did you wrong, you can tell them that they did you wrong. Give them a chance to apologize or make up for it. And if they don't, don't see them anymore. But don't this whole wall thing. I didn't like that. I don't think.
Yeah, it was basically his argument or his reasoning was that the state is so violent that if you even say that the state should be there, then you are directly saying that the state should, be violent towards me, or that you wouldn't mind if I went to prison because I didn't pay my taxes or something like that. And it's totally absurd and abstract, but
I think he called it the against me argument.
That's right. Yeah, and it is actually it's a good argument, the against me argument. It's it does win in some good debates. You can use it very well in debates, but for libertarianism. But yeah, in terms of just cutting up, it's ridiculous. It's nonsense. I mean,
we've got some breaking news from the chat. Gabriel Divine finally watched The Last Jedi, and apparently he got the version without any audio or terrible plot, so he only got to hear the music. I'm psyched for you, Gabriel, that you could hear the music over that terrible plot and that big red scene.
Great score. It was so good, just as good as ever. Like really great, really great. He hasn't lost even the slightest edge.
That's the only thing I would take away from that movie that was great, other than that scene that they stole from Singing in the Rain with the big bright red backdrop, which, again, they just didn't have the money to finish that backdrop. They're like, oh, we'll just do bright red. No one cares. No one cares about this movie. Don't worry about the plot either. Not at all.
It was funny. I was talking to some of my Asian friends, and they were like, oh, the new Star Wars, that's Baizuo. That's Baizuo. And I was like, what does that mean? And so I looked it up, and it means like this super social justice kind of oriented view of things that like is talking down to you in like a really, really offensive way. And they're like, we don't want to watch Baizuo. And I thought it was so funny because I don't know what that word would be in English. I think it's spelled Baizuo, and it's one of those fantastic words like Schadenfreude or something like that. That when you hear it, you wanna use it in every situation. So I haven't seen the new Star Wars movies, or that at least that one, even though my son is a really, really huge fan, because I think we'll just keep watching the original trilogy. It's funny too, because the new trilogy that everybody hated so much, now it's not looking so bad anymore. Now people are going back and they're missing the Jar Jar Binks days. So I think that's really funny.
The romance was so bad in the second and third original trilogy, or the prequel trilogy. But yeah, I'm original trilogy maximalist. There's only 3 Star Wars movies. There's only been 3. They were never remastered. There was never any special effects added. They've been original and pristine since 1977.
Okay, back to crypto.
Thomas, have you made a spaceships only version?
Spaceships only version. That is very
Star
good.
Wars. I've done all 3 of the original Star Wars films. Ships only. Just search for Star Wars ships only.
Yeah.
And Thomas made those.
And also, I highly recommend, before we move on, I highly recommend Mr. Plinkett's critiques, film length critiques of the prequels, which absolutely rips them to shreds in a very entertaining and erudite way. All right, I've got a question from Tara Bear to Gabriel D. Vine. I'm not sure who that is. Oh, no, yeah, that is me, the Grand Vizier of today's talk show. Talk tokenization. It's hot right now. What kind of stuff do you think we'll be tokenizing? So, I actually wanted to mention that I think it's very funny, and I'm sure that a bunch of F-huffers are talking about how suddenly when you make a token on top of Bitcoin, it's no longer bullshit, and tokenizing the world isn't stupid anymore. And I think there's definitely a little bit of hypocrisy there. That's why I have never been an anti-token person on an abstract level. I think that there may be a use for tokens someday. And I have always thought that MadeSafe is very interesting. A non-blockchain company. They've been around for 12 years, creating this extremely sophisticated system that takes a lot of work. Although I have a feeling there might be jumping into beta within 2 years on that thing. But
12 years worth of work.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big project. Basically, it's a decentralized. It's basically Pied Piper from Silicon Valley. It has basically stole that idea, but it's exactly what's needed. It's a fully decentralized system where everybody's kind of sharing their storage and bandwidth back and forth, and it's totally blind, all encrypted. But that's a very difficult thing to do, decentralized. Anyways, and plus they're skimming off the token that they're going to use for it, which is a little bit suspect for people, but they've been working on it for 12 years. I feel like what they're going to do is try to get as much profit out of that as they can before it gets copied and an open source version goes out there where nobody's skimming off the top. Anyways, tokenizing. Yeah, I mean, the BISC, formerly BitSquare, decentralized exchange, they're doing a DAO that is really fulfilling the initial vision of what a distributed autonomous organization can be, with totally fair tokens, and everything gets voted on. It's not there. I mean, they haven't launched it yet. They're just still working on it. But Chris Beams and Manfred Carr are putting in really serious, deep thought on this project. That's something that you want to look at. That'll just be colored coins on using Counterparty, unless the liquid side chain and some of these newer techs become a better option, in which case they'll do that. But they're definitely building on top of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I like to use tokens at Chuck E. Cheese. That's what they're good for. I fear with the current idea, there's just going to be too many tokens, and I don't think that you're going to be able to make an efficient market. And people talk about eBay coins and Amazon coins.
No.
Trade your Target coins for eBay coins.
No.
And then what if you get stuck in Toys R Us coins? It's all going to go down.
Individual merchants. That is pseudocurrencies.
Tell me everybody's going to be tokenizing. It's the license to print your own money. It's like gift cards all over again.
I'm going to trade my Blake coin for Tatiana coin, and then I'm going to get a lot of Tatiana coin, and then I'm going to win. And that's going to be, and then equals profit equals retirement for reasons.
I did really well on Titanic.
That's not
Look,
how it is. I think it's more like junk bonds, which are ICOs, and stocks. You know, a lot of the assets that we have today that are digital, but they're just completely corrupt with the DTCC and not controlled. They're not properly scarce. You can do guaranteed scarcity on a public blockchain with these colored assets.
So it'll be like the Wolf of Wall Street, but with less regulation. That doesn't sound good to me.
There's also, I mean, we've running a Bitcoin gold exchange for a long time, and everyone gets confused and thinks, oh, the gold is tokenized. But actually, we didn't tokenize it. It is literally a database of allocated gold bullion. It's thousands of years old regulation now. It's well understood. But we have looked at tokenizing because it is kind of useful to say, hey, I've got an allocated resource, an asset that's audited in a high security vaulting facility, fully insured, and I can send the ownership of that cryptographically proven to someone else. The problem is, well, there's multiple problems, and why we haven't done it, because actually the technology is easy, right? The color coin's been around forever. We've actually built it before. We've shelved it. But the problem is, for instance, one problem is demurrage. This is the cost of holding goods. And you have this cost, and basically it sits there in the vault. It needs to be audited. Big people with guns need to stand there and secure this stuff. It needs to be insured. All these costs are there. Now, if you have a token, let's say one token is worth 1 gram of gold. What happens? Does that slowly lose value over time, or every time you send it, is there a fee depending on how long you've held it? And people, once they get into crypto, they don't like demurrage. They don't like inflation. They don't like losing value of their token. So that's a problem. And it's funny because they will pay for storage fees independently of that. It's kind of a psychological difference there. Another problem is allocated versus unallocated. Now, we deal in allocated gold. That's your property, is your legal property in your name as your thing. That means if anything happens to us as an exchange, it doesn't matter. Your gold is sitting there as your stuff. Liquidators can't come in and touch it. And when you tokenize it, it means that we have to pull it in our name. And let's say 2 people do a drug deal in this token, and the cops swoop in and go, hey, where's the value for that? What is that? And they go, oh, it's secured in this vault. Then they can come and shut down the entire economy. Whereas right now with allocated assets, all they can do is shut down that little bit of gold, that amount of gold that is attached to that account. And so this is a big problem with allocated assets and tokenizing assets. And I think we'll come to see more of these issues come up as people start actually really thinking about it in terms of tokenizing property. And people are talking about tokenizing. I mean, the other big problem is, hey, you have all this gold and your wallet gets hacked and it gets stolen. And what is it now? The hacker's gold in there, and then there's court cases, and then the people say, no, my account got hacked, and it's actually my gold, and well, what's the point of having an immutable database if then a judge goes, no, that gold should be rewritten, reissue those tokens? What's the point? Is it speed? Is it easy to move that maybe that's a point. But like if Zuckerberg's shares are all tokenized and he gets hacked, does he not own Facebook anymore? I don't know.
It's an interesting and good question. And it's really interesting to talk about the overhead of physical value storage. And then, well, if you have the overhead of physical value storage and then you had a float of something that was yours, how could you provide naturalized rates of interest that don't have to do with LIBOR that would offset the cost of that physical value storage? Then you get into options. And this is why I love the space, because when people try to do things that are fundamentally impossible or very, very hard or anywhere in between, you come up with lots and lots and lots of ideas, one of which would be to decimate market inefficiency through arbitrage methodologies to make it so that there's some type of gain being had from your float storage, looking at, okay, can I triangularly arbitrage between gold, Bitcoin, USD or some other currency, and can I actually make it so that I'm decimating inefficiency while assisting with some type of soft price discovery, which will enable me to have the extra cost of a physical backing. And so when you start to get really creative in this space and think of ideas like that, you begin to actually transcend a lot of the fundamental limits that placed government in charge of things in the past, because we were just like, we're out of ideas, let's do it with force. And so I think that what you're talking about is very, very, very fascinating, because it's an issue, but it's not, I think, an issue that would be impossible to find a path out of.
I think I think we're going to maybe be settling on some different terms as these types of assets become possibly used in limited capacities. I think we're going to be, it's all kind of a mess right now. Everyone kind of equates, Bitcoin, which is it's a digital commodity money, ICOs, which are basically unregulated junk bond tokens. And then there's the idea of tokenizing, which is what Joshua brought up. I completely agree with you. And I just kind of want to clarify that even more for the audience to just to hone in on exactly that issue. If your token represents something external to the digital system it's part of, unlike Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin has mining, so it's basically produced with real world electricity. So there's this direct tie. You cannot create Bitcoin without paying for the labor to set up the servers and for the physical electrons flowing in, the energy from the world, the atoms.
To find rare numbers.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. To randomly guess these numbers really, really fast. You're actually using tons of electricity from the real world. So it's something intrinsic to the system. If you, this is why Joshua and his team they totally are not going to issue an asset that represents something in a vault. There's no direct connection between those two things, between this decentralized database, a blockchain, and what's in the vault. There's nobody mining that. Even if you build a colored Bitcoin that represents this gold, there's no tie-in between those. So there's plenty of opportunity for fraud. Not that you guys would do that. And basically, it's the same issue with gold-backed currency, and why that also had problems. Because we couldn't go to Fort Knox in 1932 and audit the gold ourselves. We had to trust the third, fourth, fifth, sixth parties and say, oh yeah, they totally got the gold, I swear, man. And if you want $5 of silver, here you go. There's huge opportunities for fraud. And so when you're talking about, I'm going to put property on the blockchain, well, if your village council or state government or whatever deems that even though you don't hold this private key, you can't have the fucking house because our cops are going to keep you out of the house. You don't own the house, bro. So there's nothing at all except for red tape connecting tokens with the things that they represent generally. And this is why and this is why I think MadeSafe is cool, because your tokens can't be the network will not issue you your safe coin unless you are actually can prove that you've got X amount of megs, gigs, terabytes on the network, and you're offering it to the network. It's something that's absolutely you cannot fake. So unless your token is representing something totally intrinsic to the network that it's part of and how it's issued, it's dependent on a third party, and what it is a marginal improvement on record keeping. So instead of some fat old lady in an office with a filing cabinet and somebody puts a gun to her head, you have a pretty awesome record keeping system. But if there's really, it's not anything more than that. It's the same exact system as your real estate registry or whatever.
And for a lot of the people that have been around for a long time, I mean, watching with horror as eGold and Liberty Dollar and stuff collapsed, and realizing that having the tangible element of the chain is just such a huge risk. I mean, that's one of the reasons that, the Bitcoin white paper and everything proposed by it and that happened afterwards was so amazing, because it was like sociology meets computer science meets value without that physical, handicap stapled to your genitals, basically, that was represented by everything that came before it. So it's really, really, really fascinating trying to find a really, really concrete way to tie the physical world into the digital one, and proof of work is an amazingly effective way of doing that, to the extent that everything else is very, very, very dubious in terms of how effective the proof of work system has been so far. People, when people compare anything to the proof of work, they say the maximalists go nuts, and then they start getting upset. Well, there are some reasons for this, because people don't want to conflate really robust technologies that work well with something that is almost entirely theoretical that could end up burning people.
Yeah, I mean, in one way, I think having to crack the problem of tokenizing something like gold would be really handy, because volatility in this space does make certain use cases really tricky. And I think if you were to have some sort of stable value, not backed by a ridiculous notion like a tether, because a tether, even if they can prove the tether is there, it's being speculated with by the banks that it's stored into. So it's not there. It's fractionally reserved, whether it's the auditor says it's in the account or not. But to have that, but it's very useful. Tether is actually very useful for traders, for arbitrage, for all sorts of things. But to back it by this fiat is nonsense. So to try to figure out how to do it is a very good problem to try and solve. But yeah, it comes with it's not, when you see people saying, oh, we've got a gold-backed crypto, really take time and look at the problems that come along with that and see if they actually have solved it. I mean, you're right. One of the biggest problems, and I think, have we got a call there?
Hello, caller, just live on the World Crypto Network. Josh, you want to finish your point, then we'll go to the caller?
Yeah, I just want to quickly finish the point there. Is that, what was that point? I think
your train of thought crashed.
The train of thought crashed, but yeah, it'll hit me again.
The Bitcoin backing, gold backing. Backing your token means your token's worthless, and so you're pretending that something's connected to it that's not. That's what backing means. Yeah, and you can do all sorts of things, but trying to build that connection is a very handy tool once it's cracked, but it's not really easy to crack. So folks, if there is someone doing a gold back token, you can't just back. That's what I was going to say, is that Satoshi wrote Bitcoin or created Bitcoin because it's illegal to mint your own currency in most developed countries or even undeveloped countries. The state loves a monopoly. And so by minting, by tying gold to an actual digital currency and saying, hey, take this new, Voltoro coin and move it around, let's say that, or gold, virtual gold, it could be seen as illegal straight away. And so it's, I just think there's what we've done is said, hey, if you want to spend your gold, trade it for Bitcoin and move the Bitcoin. We had paper backed with gold back in the day because you needed to have some sort of value attached to that paper. But Bitcoin is so quick, you can jump in and out of something that's very stable very easily. So if you need to use the utility of moving a digital currency, you can jump out and move it and then jump back into something that's allocated to you as your property, whether it's gold or whatever it is that you purchase. But if you can if you can jump back out of that back into crypto, then it's a very good way of circumventing the whole notion of having to tokenize it.
All right, let's go to the caller. Caller, you're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey guys, how are you doing? I've been waiting for this for a while. Actually, just had to re-download Skype. My name's Ryan. I'm from Florida.
Thanks for calling in, Ryan.
Yeah, what's on your mind today about Bitcoin? Go ahead, join the discussion.
I've been loving Bitcoin since 2013. I love Bitcoin every day. I look at your beautiful face every day, Thomas. And this panel is great. I love
boy, lucky you.
Say what?
I'm just joking. Lucky you.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty easy life, the Bitcoin life.
It is very wondrous indeed.
Yeah, it's going good.
Didn't get to hang out with the dog.
I think some of the people I've fallen asleep to, like Thomas, your voice is sometimes I fall asleep to some of these podcasters, and then I tell them, hey, you send me to sleep sometimes.
So
and
is
then you have the
told me
dream
he
where he
used to-
flies in through the window. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mad
One guy
Bitcoins
told me he
flies
used to
in.
listen in the shower. It was pretty exciting. I was like, that's good and that's bad. Go ahead,
your
caller.
first caller on this stream?
Yep, it's up to you. Set the tone for the other callers. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness, guys! All right, just go ahead and do it. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It's nice here in the Bitcoin world.
It's true.
Come on in. The water's fine.
Do you have a question, Ryan?
Not really. Calling in, just support you guys. Chat.
Oh, thanks, brother.
If you want my opinion about anything, I've been around since 2013. Since we used
Tell
to
us.
gamble 20 bitcoins at a time, playing poker online at Seals with Clubs. Through all the bear markets, through all the
Nice.
booms and busts. But yeah, been buying
Seal with
Bitcoin.
clubs.
We've got an OG on the phone. What is the OG perspective on tokenization? What do you think about what we're talking about tokenizing? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I just burnt through about $4,000 of Verge. Getting a workout in for the day. Yeah, tokenization is certainly great.
All right, well,
Yeah.
excellent, man. Thank you so much for calling in. We really appreciate it.
Highly sarcastic. No, I'm diversified a little bit. I just keep waiting to load more Bitcoin into my bags. But
tell us your Bitcoin. What do you call it? Your Bitcoin awakening story.
Your hymen tearing.
Bitcoin awakening story. All right. Let's see here. 2013 or so. Me and my buddy really wanted to gamble. We really wanted to gamble, and we've heard about online currencies and some places that were legit, some places that weren't legit. Started looking into Bitcoin and started watching the price, and that was really exciting. I mean, even just from like 130 to 140 to 120, like it's just astonishing to me. I was involved with the stock market for years previous to that. Went to college to actually go be a stock broker. Cut that off real quick. And
Congratulations.
yeah, before you knew it, I was at Walmart 3 times that day using MoneyGrams and what is it? Zappo? Not Zappo.
MoneyGram back in the day. I remember buying Bitcoin with MoneyGram.
Yeah, BitInstant allowed you.
Service line, like my hand, I can't wait to get $500 more Bitcoin. I can't wait. And
Dwala,
every day,
BitInstant,
loading up, and we just literally go back home, open up beers, throw on the price chart on Mt. Gox, and just watch the horses race, and that's what got me started.
Did you lose any money when Gox went tits up?
No, I had my money out of Gox, thank God. But the person that I did get involved with Bitcoin in, he lost god awful amount on Mt. Gox, lost a god awful amount on Silk Road, god awful amount on another exchange that went down. We built like a $4,000 mining computer with when GPU was still great, and he turned that thing into a fire hazard and almost burned down his apartment. That guy's had the worst luck out of anybody I've ever known.
I mean, I think my biggest regret through all of crypto.
And my journey was so beautiful.
I was gonna say, I think my biggest regret through all of crypto was sharing the Mt. Gox ticker screen, and not the ticker, but the charts, sharing charts that were branded with Mt. Gox because they had all the volume. And so I would share charts and I would talk about Bitcoin with the Mt. Gox chart. I never had any money on Mt. Gox, but a lot of the people that listened to me did have money on Mt. Gox because I was sharing charts that were branded with it. And I that was a really big lesson for me in terms of just how careful you have to be when you give advice in this space to make sure that nobody ends up getting burned by the things that you say. So I'm really happy to hear that you didn't lose any money on Gox, being in as early as you were.
At that point too, Mount Gox was the only game in town. That was the only price that you could check. That was the only chart we had. That was it.
No, that's not true. No, there was a few other exchanges already in 2013, and but when I got into it, I immediately wrote off Mount Gox because it was so easy. Like the internet was just saturated with people saying I can't get my money off. Or I finally got my money. It took me 2 months, and all these problems by that time. I think that maybe even 2011 there were a lot of problems, but they were kind of trundling along in 2011 and 2012, and people were kind of able to do trades and able to get money off. But by 2013, like the backups were so obvious that I just ignored it. I never got involved with Mt. Gox at all.
I lost a shed load in Mt. Gox.
You still got a chance. They might give it back to the bankruptcy court. Is starting to roll forward. But it was funny back in the day. I used to call it the legendary Mt. Gox.
You'll get your 2014 fiat value of your Bitcoin back.
All right, so what's your take on this, guys?
Well, I didn't lose any money on Mt. Gox, but I did get fleeced pretty hard by Butterfly Labs, so I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
Space with so much time has elapsed now, and they're talking about actually reimbursing people with the Bitcoin that they lost instead of the fiat value pegged at the timestamp. Do you actually think that would help bring people back into the space and load people up with some Bitcoin, or do you think that would just be a massive dump?
I think it's going to just help people feel better. It was a sad story. A lot of like waitresses and early people bought their Bitcoin in Mt. Gox, and they were suddenly very rich, and then they were suddenly very poor again. So I think it's going to make those people feel better. But I don't know that they would get back into crypto or back into Mt. Gox or anything like that. The main reason they seem to be doing that, they just have so much money. And otherwise, Karpelis is going to take $1 billion out of that company. And I think the second half of that will be he'll give him the money back and he'll reopen the exchange. There you go.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I guess I have been following that news, but yeah, no, I guess why Mt. Gox is on my mind. The first person in my family that actually cracked into buying some Bitcoin. Yeah, it was my uncle. He just went all in. Well, not all in, but he threw $10,000 right on the Mt. Gox right at Thanksgiving-ish time, and yeah, did not take very long at all, and he just left it on the exchange, got burnt as hell, and that part of my family actually moved over to Texas, and I don't see them very often, but the last couple of times I saw him, he still looked at me like I fed him poison.
Oh man,
he defooed you.
He did.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's probably not the most funny joke to use, but
yeah, that's very, very unfortunate. I think the thing is that these incidents that happen in crypto are really incidents of the community learning and demanding better exchanges, demanding more transparency protocols be put in place, demanding all these sorts of things. And as much as people lost, it's really shocking, including myself. I think it's one of those really important things to say, hey, I'm never going to do business with an exchange that doesn't have a proper transparency protocol in place. And with that comes the fact that I think it's really up to us as a community to demand that, because if we don't, we really will have government stepping in with way more regulation, which will basically stop the startups from really revolutionizing the whole banking sector. So it's really important to say, hey, startup, you have a 9 out of 10 chance of failing, so have a transparency protocol in place.
Well, also, you need to take profits. You also need to move money off exchanges and into cold storage if you start to really, really have visceral gains. What started out as 1,000, if it 10x's, you need to start thinking about what you're going to do in terms of your security policies as an individual.
Offline cold storage, absolutely. But Where was I going with that? No, I bought at 130 all the way up to $17,000, and I didn't sell, and it crashed to 6,000. I didn't sell, and it went up to 19,000. I just don't understand why I would sell now. Why to get back into day trading? That shit's a nightmare. Taxes are almost incalculable. Even hired a CPA to look into it a little bit. It cost $600, and I did most of the work myself, and then still had to write a check for about $4,000 or so. Just and I still don't even know if I did it right. Still could get audited. Absolutely terrible. But yeah, what you guys were saying about governance with startups and exchanges and whatnot. I just want to be left alone. Most of my Bitcoin has always been purchased with cash, peer-to-peer, local Bitcoins, friends. I've got a few Coinbase transactions when I still had my job. And but yeah, this is an
interesting thing I always like to find out from
I
oh, sorry to interrupt. I was wondering, being an OG in this space, I always like to ask other people that got into Bitcoin at this time, were you a libertarian or an anarchist, or did you end up taking on some of those philosophies by being in the space, or did some of these political philosophies never really bother you or touch you?
I grew up with strong Republican family. Never really identified. I've always had an interest in politics. I've always been well-read, if you will, but always had very strong libertarian roots. I probably own more weapons than most people own Bitcoins. But yeah, I want my guns. I want my Bitcoin. I don't want people calling my cash illegal. I want to be able to start a business if I'd like to and not hurt anybody, pay my taxes, and just be left alone. But no, the libertarian in me certainly grew over time, being in Bitcoin, being in this space, watching the world around us, all this trade war stuff that Thomas was talking about earlier. It's just I just couldn't imagine this 4 or 5 years ago. But past couple of years, I look at my bank account, look at some emergency funds, emergency money, and it just looks so much less appealing than it used to. I'm far more confident holding Bitcoin. Hell, even the Ethereum I've been telling myself to dump for a year straight now. But
You're right. It's been a pretty amazing run these past 5 years, and I can't even imagine what it'll look like in the future. But thank you so much for the call, and give us a call anytime.
yeah, I will call back for you guys. I finally got Skype on a computer that I'm currently using. So hope you guys have a great crypto day, and be positive.
Have a good
Thanks,
one.
Ryan.
Thanks,
Awesome
man.
to hear from you,
And,
man.
Hug your uncle for me.
I know you got to take off. Do you have something to say in closing? You just want to say
I do.
goodbye?
Dearest Bitcoin ecosystem, it's been a wonderful 4 years, 5 years, 5.25 years for me. And I want to thank Thomas yet again for inviting me to participate in the World Crypto Network. Those fateful times. That was 4 years ago, I believe it was, 3.5. And I've had a wonderful time. Bitcoin is the best. And I will be sharing my project next month with you guys, my secret project. I left a little Easter egg about the name of it today. So I'm sure you guys will figure that out very quickly. And I love you all. Bye-bye. Good to see you.
Thanks so much for stopping by, Gabe. We'll talk to you later.
See you, Gabe.
Bye.
Nice to see you, man.
And it looks like we might have another call here on the Skype. We're going to go over to Skype. See if I can get it unmuted here. Let's see. Did it work? No. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, my name's Aaron. I'm from sunny California, and
All right, Aaron.
big fan of you guys' show. I started listening maybe a couple weeks ago, and you guys are slowly converting me into a maximalist.
All right, slowly making your way there, and remember, it's not so bad to have some altcoins as some investment, or if they pump, you can dump. But really, yeah, at the end of the day, all roads lead to Rome. Everything here is about Bitcoin. It just always seems to end up that way. But do you have a question for us today, or just a comment on what's been going on?
Yeah. Lately, I've been hearing a lot of talk about the cost of mining is below the price. It's becoming too expensive to mine, and that's going to create like a support level for Bitcoin's price. But I feel like that really the cost of mining doesn't have that much of an effect on the price of Bitcoin, because people who are inefficient are going to get pushed out, and the supply, the amount of Bitcoins mined is going to stay constant. So really, I don't see that having a correlation with the price. It's, people don't care how much it costs to mine. They're going to buy Bitcoin as cheap as they can get it, and it's always going to be the same amount being mined no matter what.
All right, we seem to have some issue with your connection, but we'll go ahead and talk some more about this, about Bitcoin and the mining cost. But yeah, give us a call back when we're having a better connection. But Blake, what do you think about Bitcoin and the cost of mining?
Well, Bitcoin and the cost of mining are very, very interesting, because time preference and rates of interest are calculated in very strange ways in the legacy economy. Like, a lot of people heard about the LIBOR scandals and how they weren't supposed to talk to certain people. Then, of course, they were having lunch with them like every single day, and like, oh, well, we didn't talk about what we shouldn't talk about. So that's not a very good way to calculate time preference or interest rates. Whereas with mining, when you mine Bitcoin, it's very, very expensive. You have to filter all the air that's going through the machines, or you have to have a liquid cooling system. It costs a lot of energy to run the machines and to cool them, and you have to have a secure location. Like we were talking about, physical property is hard to maintain, so the physical property of a Bitcoin mine is no different. So what ends up happening is people that mine Bitcoin, they need to hold it. It's almost like, Tabasco. You age it in oak barrels for a while, and then it's done, and then you sell it. It's almost like the time horizon for the length of which you hold mined Bitcoin, and how much capital you're going to want to go and seek from other people to pay your bills until you actually want to liquidate that Bitcoin for however much you want. Either you're going to hold it in perpetuity, or you're going to sell it at some point after 24 months, 48 months, however long that may be. And then the length of those times with how Bitcoin is doing in the market end up correlating with like kind of a naturalized time preference metric. So it's like, is it correlated directly? Maybe not. It might be disconnected a little bit, but there is still various ways in which how much money is coming out of the mines, how much Bitcoin is going to hit the markets versus how much is going to be held onto. When the price is low, those horizons need to be lengthened, and when the price is really, really high, those horizons are shortened. It's almost like the opposite of a dollar cost averaging strategy. So if you look up a dollar cost averaging strategy and then apply that to mining, it might give you a good glean into what and why is happening and how those are correlated, because it's, again, like the caller said, it's not super direct, but the correlation does exist once you go out 3 or 4 levels and you look at how the money is flowing in and out of the Bitcoin mines.
Now, Josh, I want to ask you, Max Kaiser always said that because the hash rate is going up, the price of Bitcoin was going up. This hasn't worked out too well for us so far this year, but do you believe he's right, that the hash rate is eventually going to drive the price?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one for sure. But mining has never been profitable at the point of mining. Exactly what Blake was just saying. It really is something that you have to mine and hold and wait for the price to go up. So it's difficult to say. I think Marx had this theory of labor value thing going on, and a lot of people are dismissing that and saying, no, it's not really the truth, that the amount of labor put in. But at the same time, not that I want to sit here quoting Marx, but I do think
the libertarians have gone mighty red today. It happened fast.
I know. God help me. No, but yeah, there is something with that. I mean, if I have a machine sitting there and I've just paid 2,000 euros to mine 1 Bitcoin, I'll probably sell it because we're sitting there at 6,000. But if it's going to cost me 7,000 to mine 1 Bitcoin, well, I'm just going to hold that, knowing that, hey, mathematically, there's going to be less and less of these things. Actually, I think one thing's quite interesting, because as more and more of these shitcoins have come along, people have said, well, what if it's not a given that Bitcoin will go up, because there'll be some other coin that will be a lot better. But I also see the fact that Bitcoin was the first. So even if something is better, even if something becomes fantastic and it does everything, and Amazon brings it out and it does it all, I still think Bitcoin being the first makes it like a collector card, makes it like, oh, I've got a part of the very first cryptocurrency that was available. And I think that will hold the price. And there's no other shitcoin that can say that. There's no other crypto that can say we were the first and have that as a form. You can be the second, maybe, like, what is it, Namecoin or Litecoin was the fourth or something. but really the first has that to it. But yeah, it's a tricky one, the entire the mining cost. It's a tricky one. You just have to wait. There's so many players having their own opinion about this.
Well, I want to comment too on what you said about it being first, if I can, Thomas, or did you want to say something?
I was going to say really quick that the only reason that my mining made any money is because we accidentally held some of the coins on an old computer. At the time, the miners made nothing but loud noises during all of my movies, and they heated up my apartment. So they were generally bad, and I don't recommend that you get home miners. The only reason that we profited or broke even was because we accidentally left some of the Bitcoin or some of the Dogecoin or something on an old computer, waited 4 years or whatever, came back to it, and then we were all set. So for these miners, if they have a similar time preference, they're going to be fine. But if you're mining to get the money to pay the power bill to do the mining, you're in trouble already. Go ahead, Blake.
I was just going to talk about the argument that Bitcoin was first, and so that gives it some type of collector value. And it's interesting because I've heard the opposite argument. I was in a debate with Adam Kokesh. I think it was probably around 2013. We were at a conference, and he was talking about Litecoin and how Litecoin was going to replace Bitcoin because Bitcoin was MySpace and Litecoin was Facebook. And I was just like, I think that's a really, really not great comparison to make. I mean, memory intensive script hashing versus SHA hashing. I mean, there's a lot of scientific reasons why it's not the best comparison to make. But I think it's interesting that the opposite argument of what you made was made by somebody else. It makes me think that that argument may have merit, but it's so much about subjective opinion of so many different people that it makes me wonder how strong of a proposition either one of those things are. I would hope that science would win out over emotion and over subjective opinions of people, but I know that very many times it doesn't. So it's a very, very interesting thing to chew over and to really think about what are the things that are going to drive the lower common denominators, like the more kind of lay people into which direction. A lot of people are motivated a lot more by emotion than they are by pragmatism and logic. So it's very interesting to think about what types of reasons would people have to value something outside of the scientific ones.
And a lot of people try to say things like Betamax versus VHS or old technologies have been replaced, but I still, like Andreas, go back to TCP/IP. It bent, but it didn't break. They didn't think it could do a lot of things, but now it does everything. So once again, Bitcoin keeps around these last 5 years, these last 10 years, whatever it's been. It's been a long time and Bitcoin's still there. We're going to go and open up the calls again. If you want to call us right now on Skype, World Crypto Network. This is first come, first serve. So if you're first, you get to call in. Be sure to have headphones, turn your speaker down, have a question or just a comment. It's a radio show. You guys know it. You know the drill. But if we don't get another call, we'll have Blake, Phil, or maybe Josh, or we'll talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp that I'm looking forward to very much.
I want to talk a little bit more about Adam Kokesh. More people were talking about him in the chat, and I like Adam Kokesh a lot. I hung out with him a lot. I think that a lot of people have been not stoked that he's running for president, and he also had an interview / debate with J.W. Weatherman a little while ago.
Let's first go down the libertarian resume. Has he ever run for dog catcher? Has he ever run for city council? Has he ever run for House of Representatives? Have he ever run for Senate? Okay, tell me, is he qualified to run for president? I like the publicity aspects. I understand that. But really, you libertarians, you got to start lower. Any libertarian representative in the United States, please raise your hand.
It's just interesting because his contentions in his interview with JW seem to be that we need to do and be more than peaceful and interact peacefully in exchange in free commerce and have both people succeed on either end of the deal. He seemed to be of the opinion that we need to do more of that and do more than that. And I think that that's kind of soft anti-libertarian to say, I'm going to do and be more than these baseline principles that, if adhered to by everybody, are going to make the world better. I think that agorism is the most that you can possibly do in terms of not violating the libertarian principle of not going out and violating negative rights and, trying to seize control by being the president and all that stuff. So I think that Adam Kokesh is a nice guy, but I think that he has gone too far in terms of what he's trying to do with the platform that he has, because libertarianism doesn't really lend itself towards doing things like that. A lot of people say that that's why Ron Paul wasn't more successful, because he stuck to his guns too much, but that's what made everybody love him so very, very much. And it's why people are not as fond of Rand Paul, in my opinion. So I like Adam Kokesh a lot, but I think that people have a tendency to push the limits, and I think that perhaps he did it a little bit too far.
Looking back, I think people were ready for Ron Paul in 2004, but he ran in 2008. I think it was something like that. He ran too late, or the second time he ran for Sirius, and he should have run for Sirius the first time. But once again, there was a lot of opportunity there to get the voice out, and he was a good voice for the Libertarians.
I love Ron Paul. He's one of my favorite people of all time. Just had to say that.
Yeah, I mean, Ron Paul, I think anyone running from the libertarian circles is just there for an educational platform about liberty, because and I'm taking a quote here from I think it was Stefan Molyneux or something, whether you like or hate him, but this quote was good. It's like, trying to become president is like and make it into a libertarian thing is kind of like trying to infiltrate the bikies and turning them into United Way or something like that. You have an intrinsic group of people that work by taking money by force from a certain group to give it to other things, whether they're good or bad things. Making schools, some things are good, but they also create wars. You really can't change the system from within. You really have to build something else and make the old obsolete. And I think that's the way to go. And that's where Bitcoin is so attractive to me, is because it's like, hey, you know what? Screw the system. Let's build something better.
Fair enough. I would agree with that. I can see how the libertarian philosophy doesn't fit into running for office and existing within the current system. So yeah, it's even more absurd to run for the top office and say that you're going to change things from the top. Although, the current occupant is changing a lot of things from the top, most certainly. But I think we're nearing the end of this show. I don't know how long you guys want to go on here. What do you guys think? Take some more calls or try to head towards the end?
I mean, I'm fine with taking some more calls. I got some more time if you guys do, but if you guys have to go, I mean, I already insisted that we started the show over, so I don't want to be too pushy.
Well, no worries. But
I've got time. I'm all right.
All right. Well, if there's another call, we'll take 1 or 2 more calls here, and then we'll move on and we'll play some old Bitcoin group episodes. I think that's been going pretty well. A lot of people have never seen these old Bitcoin group episodes, so they're like, you know that guy? You know that guy? And I'm like, oh yeah, I've been in this 5 years. I know a lot of guys, and I don't like to ask favors for them and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm on pretty good terms with most of these people. So
I think it's also interesting that we're saying essentially the same things that we said almost 4 or 5 years ago, and there are definitely certain people in the space that don't do that. They exist for 9 months and then they start their own ICO and stuff like that, and it always makes me sad, because that's you don't want to do that stuff.
Yeah, I found an old episode of me talking like 2012 or something, or even earlier, and I was actually really surprised at what was coming out of my mouth. It was like, totally the same things that I'm saying now. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I was really happy to see.
And it's-
Ideological consistency. Yes.
Well, it's tough if you're an engineer instead of like a hyper, promoter or whatever. You feel like you say something and then you don't want to repeat yourself. You don't want to say it again and again and again and again and again. But some of the stuff that, Dunning-Kruger effect considered that you should be saying again and again and again and again and again is not being said, because these engineers that have already stated it once very carefully and concisely, they don't talk about it again. Like, people make predictions like, oh, my TA prediction is it's going to go up or it's going to go down. I don't make very many predictions. One of the only predictions that I've made in recent times was that the ephemeral value proposition of Bitcoin Cash was going to be insular, because it was going to be listed on Coinbase, and there's going to be favors and stuff going around. And once that insular value proposition starts to degrade, the price is going to go down. So if you want to hold your Bitcoin Cash on a very, very short horizon, that's when you're going to want to sell it. And that was correct, but I only said it once. If I had said it multiple times and really gone out on this, campaign of like, look at how smart I am, and this is what's going to happen, more people would have benefited. But engineers don't like to do that. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place of, I don't want to, shout myself hoarse from the top of the mountain, but at the same time, information like this is really valuable to people. So that's why I really, really, really love the World Crypto Network, where there is a record of what we've said, and you can go back and you can point to, well, maybe I didn't, shout it from the mountaintop, but I did say, at this date, at this time, that this is probably the way that things were going to unfold. And I take a lot of pride in the track record of not making a lot of random predictions and trying to only predict things when you have an investment thesis that you are really confident in and that you think is going to play out a very specific way.
It's also a question of ego. How much do you need to be right? How much do you need to tell people that you're right? How important are these predictions to you? Are these predictions the most important thing you've ever done, and you're just predicting up or down? That's not very exciting. I mean, intellectually, looking at charts is not very interesting. It only shows you the past. The Bitcoin chart is so small right now. Any big whale could come in and buy or sell, and that's what's causing these huge jumps and these huge falls. Is a whale or an exchange or someone like that decides to buy or sell, and that's why they say in all the technical analysis books that it shouldn't be done on an emerging market, because there just isn't enough information, there isn't enough history, and it's too volatile. So you could be looking at all your charts and be completely right. Then something happens that doesn't make any sense on your charts. Like if a Bitcoin ETF was announced tomorrow, if Amazon took Bitcoin tomorrow, the only people that know about that are the SEC or Amazon or the people that are inside. No one else knows. So your charts are never going to show that kind of information. And after the fact, you can make a, oh, well, I said if we'd cross this, then it would do that. But that's just this whole weatherman thing where you're just like, it was rainy, but it was also sunny. It has to be one or the other. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Steve. I'm calling from Massachusetts, but I'm soon going to be in San Diego.
All right. Steve, who's soon going to be in San Diego. What's on your mind today about Bitcoin?
Well, I got in around 2014 when it was heading down from 1,200. It was around 650, and I followed it all the way down to about 170, and it really feels a lot like that. I'm really excited about the upcoming year, and I know you guys are not maximalists. I mean, not minimalists, but I still think that Roger Ver is really working hard, doing what he's doing, and you can't discount all that he does. So don't you think, I mean, he got that Bitcoin Cash up to 4,000. Don't you think he can do it again?
Oh, I don't know. They got it up to 1,000. That was quite a lot. I've certainly said all the time that for say what you will about Roger Ver, he's a Bitcoin billionaire and he puts his money where his mouth is. The kind of campaign that he's put together for Bitcoin Cash, even though he's using Bitcoin.com to do it, which I think is disingenuous, I respect him for it. He puts his money out there. He pays people. They go out there and make media. I don't think that he's making any money on that in return. Maybe he's making money through trading somehow. I don't know. But I just wish a lot more Bitcoiners would support Bitcoiners talking about Bitcoin. I think that media has its own reward. It's a little ephemeral. It might not directly affect your pocketbook like investing in a company, but I think investing in media is good. And Roger certainly does that. But I'll open this up to the panel. Josh, what do you think about Roger and Bitcoin Cash lately?
Yeah, I mean, I look, I'm all about competition. You know, I used to be really Bitcoin maximus, but then when I thought about it for a while, I sat back and I really thought about it. I thought, no, you know what? Really, what it's about is competition and free market amongst currencies. The fact that I can create Josh dollars and hope that someone else will start accepting it and create a network effect around Josh dollars, that's fantastic. That's what I want to see. Because if someone's playing silly buggers, so central authorities playing silly with my money, then I want an exit door. I want competition in currency. And if Roger wants to get up there and make Bitcoin Cash his thing and make that the best thing and make that cash, good on him. What I don't like is this disingenuous way of going around it by using Bitcoin.com and saying it's the original Bitcoin and this and that. It really confuses people. It loses people money accidentally. Newbies that don't know what they're doing will lose money by sending Bitcoin Cash to a Bitcoin address because that's the original. They come on, make Bitcoin Cash. You've split up. You've got bigger blocks. Great. I can't wait. Let's see if bigger blocks is the answer. Maybe it is. We don't know. This is all an experiment. So go for it, man. But don't try to trick people because this is already very confusing. The learning curve when you're getting into this space is quite high, and we don't want to, you know, there's already a million scams for people to fall down. Let's not make, you know, wallets and different currencies even harder to navigate by calling them the original and this and that. Be really clear and concise and say Bitcoin Cash is better. If it is better, you don't need to trick people. Just say it's Bitcoin Cash and call it that and move on.
I agree.
All right, and let's get Blake Anderson's opinion. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I used to be friends with Roger Ver on social media, and we'd follow each other on Twitter and stuff like that. And
oh yeah, he unfollowed Mad Bitcoins. What a sad day. They have that little bot that follows the big blockers around it. It said, Roger Ver has unfollowed Mad Bitcoins. And I was like, sad. He should have just muted me. I would never have known.
Well, I talked to him about it, and I actually I sent him that Dr. Dre Eminem song about I need a doctor and like you need to come back. We need you for fuck's sake. And I tried to get him to come back, and I just said I have nothing but an absolute mountain of respect for how much you tried to help out with the Ross Ulbricht trial, with how much money you gave to that situation, with how your heart bled for him. I really, really, really appreciate that from Roger. I absolutely have a very similar opinion to most people nowadays about how steep of a learning curve we have right now and about how marketing should work. I'm not a great marketing person. I'm more of an engineer. So when I see marketing that isn't engineering focused, it bothers me on almost like a fundamental autistic type of level. Like I really, really, really can't stand it. So that makes it really, really, really hard for me to speak positively about Roger Ver right now. So what I try to do is try to say, I don't disagree. I disagree with what he's doing right now. I don't think that Bcash technology is tenable. I think that the development complexity is now high enough that the talent that they can attract is not going to be able to maintain the chain, and it makes me very nervous. But I can go back and say very, very, very positive things about his contributions in the past to things that I really care about.
And I still think there's a possibility there's something out there that we don't know about Roger. Maybe he lost his funds. Maybe he was hacked. Maybe he was coerced. Maybe the miners told him about ASIC boost. I don't know what happened there, but he certainly went off in one direction. Go ahead, caller.
Oh, that was nicely said. No, I'm just curious, and I first sold a lot of them, and then I bought them back, and then I sold some at 4,000, and I kept some because I just believe in the guy. He's just so passionate. I think it just might be one of the the 10 things that get left when everything's all said and done. But I like the show, and I've been watching for 4 years, and it's I'm a crypto millionaire, and it feels good. I sent 900,000 to the government last year. I'm sure they'll drop some bombs on somebody with it. But you guys keep doing what you're doing, and love the show.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's it's too bad about the government, but what are we going to do? At least maybe next time they should let you sign some of those bombs or something, or put the message on there from Crypto with Love, something like that.
Sorry.
Yeah, just an apology.
Sorry is fair. Sorry is very fair. Well, thank you so much, caller, and give us a call anytime.
All right, thanks.
All right, bye-bye. And you can call us now on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. Very cool. We've had some good calls today. We'll try to keep it open if we can have a few more calls. We're checking in with the chat, seeing what they think about Bitcoin Cash.
I wanted to make one more point earlier about what we were talking about in terms of looking at charts that represent the past and looking at technical analysis and trying to jockey for position. It's kind of like switching lanes in traffic as quickly as you can, trying to get ahead. And you're absorbing a lot of risk, and you're probably not moving ahead very, very quickly. In the example of traffic, and I think of what like Terence McKenna used to say about do whatever is closest to your local nexus of the universe. Go make a podcast with your friends, spend time with your family, read books, do those things. Don't waste your time thinking about Bill Clinton or Michael Jackson, because that's robbing you of your attention that needs to be focused on the things that you as an individual love and thrive and grow through. And I think that to some extent, people might not like me for saying this, technical analysis, when you get too deep into it, is just a really, really, really fancy, sophisticated distraction that's of the exact same type of variety as talking about Bill Clinton or Michael Jackson or arguing about politics all day. There are so much more valuable things for you to do with your time as individuals, and especially the people that have the foresight to watch shows like this. Please, for the love of God, don't stay up all night losing sleep watching technical analysis and trying to trade back and forth to make money that way. Make an investment thesis, invest long term, take profits, secure your profits in cold storage, and don't be a cautionary tale, because with the amount of I think foresight and intelligence in this community, if we do the right things, we can have a very, very serious impact on the quality of the future. And I have kids, so I really, really want the future to be good. And I mean, to spiral off into another topic, Elon Musk is starting to say it's a social duty to have children. And I think that the people in this space would have the most useful children to the future. So also, don't watch too much stuff on the internet. Get out there, live your life, look at local nexuses of your own world and your own universe, and go and do and be that and grow and be happy and be healthy. The world needs you. We need you. For Christ's sake, don't squander it. You only get one life, and the most unique currency is you. So go out and get it done.
Well said, Blake. And I think it's happening right now all over the place. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I used to be really stuck on Reddit on my phone and just checking all the different news sources, and really what made me realize one day I just woke up and thought, I'm going to go, climb a tree or something, do something that's actually living and real. But yeah, the whole political thing of watching politics, politicians yell at each other, what the hell's the point? And you're right, looking at charts, what is the point of that? And do you sit there when you get paid by your job do you watch the euro dollar chart and decide, just get out there and do something with it.
Definitely. And don't let your enemies have too much power. I used to believe in massive monolithic conspiracies, and then I wouldn't say or do anything because the conspiracy would get me. And maybe there are conspiracies or maybe they're not, but don't let it get into your head, right? Protect your local headspace. Do what you want to do. Look, like we're saying, the local community, go to a meetup, start a meetup, meet some other cool people, and things will get better. You just got to give it more time. And I think that's the only way that we're going to ever make any progress towards anything, regardless of, how the world might be set up and those kind of things.
And I love conspiracies too. What I always try to tell people is that conspiracies are real, and they're great, and they're fun to research. You want to stay open-minded. But you do not want to be so open-minded that your brain falls out and you waste all of your time listening to bullshit. You have to have some type of logical filter system, because again, age of information where we are right now, attention is the scarce resource. You have to be able to filter out the things that you're being bombarded with. And a great way to do that is just to disconnect for a while and exercise, spend time with friends and family, and read. And
a lot of the basics that Jordan Peterson talks about: make your bed, eat healthy, don't let your children become people that you don't like, these kind of things. And it all goes back to idiocracy, right, Blake? All the stupid people are breeding. None of the smart people seem to be breeding. If we do this long enough, we might have serious problems in our society. Definitely check out the movie Idiocracy if you have.
I like money.
Exactly. It's a great film. and they don't want you to watch it. It's mainstream, has actors, is well produced, written by Mike Judge, Beavis and Butthead, and Silicon Valley and everything. But still, you've never heard of it because they don't want you to watch it or talk about it. So.
You know, the thing is, I was big in the 9/11 truth movement. I really wanted a new investigation. I thought the investigations were all covered up and it was nonsense. So I was really into that. But through that period, I met a lot of people that are really get deeper and deeper, that, you know, lasers shot them down and all this nonsense. But, you know, throughout my life, I've had some friends that have really gone down the path of the grand conspiracies, you know, that lizards are running everything. And really what happens is that they lose all hope. Because everything is controlled and they don't feel like they can even leave the house. And I think you were touching on this before, Thomas, and it's really sad to see because they really fall into this extreme depression and psychosis based on some of these theories. And yeah, it's really important to step away from that sometimes. And you know, really, even if you do believe this stuff, try to just think, well, let it go and get on with your own life, because people get frozen. They get frozen into the fact that they can't do anything more because everything's watching them, and it's really, really unfortunate. I've seen absolute genius friends, a genius musician of mine, friend of mine. He's basically paraplegic, I could put it, because he just doesn't do anything with his life anymore because of the grand conspiracy. It's very sad.
That's right, Josh. And the thing that really gave me hope was Bitcoin, because I was all into the monetary system and the Federal Reserve and all those things. And I saw them as so big and so overwhelming. How could a little person like me have any effect on that? And then there was Bitcoin. And I was like, okay, so we've got a chance. At least we can have some sound money. You can have some savings. It's not seizable. It's not freezable. You can donate it to WikiLeaks or some other cause that people don't support. And you can do that. And that was really exciting to me. And that helped me move forward with a lot of this. And I've talked a lot about Bitcoin, and nothing's bad's happened to me. I'm totally fine. And I think you should talk about Bitcoin too, and all these other things. You should get out of the house. And like Josh was saying, when you get into the grand conspiracy, everything's a conspiracy. And it's really simple. You just say, oh, this happens, that's a conspiracy. Oh, what's it? Brazil lost today, conspiracy. France won, conspiracy. And it just, you get tired. You're mentally tired. And a lot of these people are keying you up. Alex Jones recently has been saying he's a performance artist. He's been saying that he doesn't believe half the things he says, that frogs are gay and all these other things. And a lot of these people are just winding you up. Like Rush Limbaugh. I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh in the 80s and the 90s, and he was completely serious then. But at the same time, he was just acting, and he was just riling these people up. And I remember the biggest thing I remember about Rush is that he counted down every single day of the first Clinton administration. He said, every single day, this is day number 362 of the Clinton administration. That's so bad. And then the thing ended, and he just started counting again. He's like, oh, it's day one of the second term of this horrible thing. And just all this stuff, it just gets you so negative. You can't have any joy or anything. And Clinton's good or Clinton's bad, but he did some okay things along the way. He's a human being. He's a person. I think so.
And what happened to Rush Limbaugh? He started taking pharmaceuticals until he almost completely went deaf. And when you're a radio personality, like, that's really, really, really not good. And it's interesting because the amount of floor space in our houses keeps increasing, and the average number of friends that people have keeps going down and down and down and down and down. So what that does is that triggers addiction, because the opposite of addiction is not necessarily sobriety. It's connection. It's having friends. It's having reasons to do something else. We got a call coming in, or did
they hung up. It was just one of those like hello rings.
There we go.
Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas, World Crypto Network. It's Ricardo from Paris.
Hey, Ricardo, how's it going?
Turned in for the night, and you guys are making some excellent points. I hate to interject, but we were talking about being active in your communities. It really resides or sounds with me, because I have been one of those people that kind of went down a path, the rabbit hole, and it kind of led me to other things, and everything from 9/11 to fluoridization and just everything and anything. And that's kind of what got me on this path of being self-sustaining. And honestly, when it comes down to it, you almost alienate other people when you over become over aware of everything. And you know, we have one life to live, and if you don't live it now, it's going to be gone before you know it. And yeah, you can get scared into a position where you don't want to leave the house, or you don't want to share your information, but you have to take a risk in life. And one thing that Blake had said about just getting out and doing something, and that's great. I've always wanted to have a family, and I finally do, and it's made me really wake up and also become more aware of the now rather than the massive now as a society, as people, as the world's going around and all the things that are going wrong. I think that we do need to do what we can. We need to educate ourselves, our families, and our community. Who cares what the politicians are doing? Who cares what the celebrities are doing? That's not you, and you don't want to be that. In the end, most people, if you think about it, you probably want privacy. You want to have a small world, or you don't want to not be able to trust your friends. I have people who became pretty well-known celebrities, and I left that scene at a young age because I didn't want that much attention on me, and I just don't believe the things that are happening. But yeah, we need to focus on the things that we can control, you know. And this community that you created has really empowered a lot of people, I think, to just be content, you know, be happy, and just do what you can for what you believe in.
Definitely, and don't take your stuff for granted. A lot of us have we have our health, we have food, we have a shelter to live in. These are pretty great. And then you go as far as, you know, you got Hulu and Netflix, and you got all these entertainment options, and the world is pretty great. You can read any book you want from the library. Amazon will bring you any book in the world. It didn't used to be like that. It used to be a lot harder to get your hands on a good movie or to get your hands on a good book. We have a lot of things that we take for granted. I think we should appreciate those some more.
I think that connection to one another will shepherd us through the age of information. The age of information is going to kill a lot of us because we got too distracted to focus on the things that were important, and we fell victim to depression and all kinds of other things. Connection is the opposite of addiction, and you can get addicted to almost anything, and you will get addicted to things for your brain to try to escape and go back to how can I get the amount of dopamine that I used to get with my tribal, you know, biology, this 200,000 years of being used to talking to people. If you don't do that, your body is going to try to make up for it with alcohol or with marijuana or with addiction to porn or any number of things. You don't want to do that. Don't let your only life get pigeonholed into one thing that's a distraction from you creating connections with your local community. It's absolutely something that lots and lots of people will not make it through the age of information with their biology going on. Maybe your memes will continue, but if your genes don't continue, and if the population of the world collapses almost by half, like Elon Musk is talking about, that's not going to be a good thing. So especially the people that are here that have the wherewithal to be aware of Bitcoin and have the amount of money with Bitcoin to be able to have more free time, please, for the love of God, use that free time to do something other than investing and make your life better, because the world needs you.
And a lot of people remember Richard Hart. Richard Hart did a lot of cool videos on his YouTube channel back in the day. And he says that he got way into playing video games and going to parties, and he would just do that every day over and over. And he was off enough that he could choose what to do. And that's what he chose what to do. We can all, and even he came out of that and he was like, this is no good. I need to do something better. I need to give back. I need to help the community. And that's what I think we all need to do. We can't just play the video games, watch the movies. We need to do other things with our time too. Let's go to Josh.
Yeah, I mean, what you said before, Thomas, about Bitcoin saving, you know, finding Bitcoin out of that darkness. It was the same story for me. I you know, being in the 9/11 Truth stuff, and then hearing like Alex Jones just permanently slamming me into the ear, and actually it was sort of the search for a philosophy that had answers instead of just pointing out all the evils in the world. And And actually, voluntarism was one of those things that came along that was like, hey, here's some cool answers. Hey, what if we don't have a state whatsoever? And what if we did this? And how would the roads work? Or how would and just having this sort of sci-fi thing play out in my mind. Oh, imagine if there was no how would, and then of course crypto came along and seeing how that would solve things as well. And really, it was one of those things where I could just stop looking at all this, just all the problems, and start looking at all the solutions that are around us. And you know, Blake, you really put it well when you said that you should get out there and use that life. And I really remember thinking when Bitcoin was even in the double digits, that wow, a lot of people in the libertarian circles are going to be extremely, extremely rich. And I can't think of a better group because of people in these voluntarists to get this ridiculous amount of money that's going to happen in the next 20 years because they think outside the square. They think, hey, instead of using violence to build, I don't know, a school. I mean, when I say violence, it's a bit of an abstraction. Kind of a lot of people don't understand what that means, but it means that you know the state uses a force to extract funds to then fund a school, fund a good thing through bad means. Let's do it in this way or that. And there's so many different mechanisms that could be had, but really it takes people that think totally outside the square to come up with that. So I think us. You know, I'm talking about a whole general community now, and that's why I like to ask if people that got into it originally, if they had these sort of libertarian thought processes, or if they've grown to think about them more, or if they don't like them whatsoever. Because as these people get wealthy, I hope it's not just Lambos that they buy and rubbish like that, but actually use that money to build ways of changing society for better without using force and these sorts of things. But sort of rambling here.
No, it's true. I wanted to say something because that you had said about earlier, Blake, about the same point as we have to, as listeners, as people who create content, we have to literally climb through all of the overload of information being like just forced down into your mind, whether it's through advertising, whether it's just somebody's opinion. We read so many clickbaity headlines. We see so many new content coming out and so many media saying that they're the truth and the other ones are the lying, and there's fake media and there's truth media and there's alternative media. And we're drowning in media. We're drowning in information, and I like to just have time when I don't have any connection to cell phones, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, any of that stuff, because it's in you, it's getting into you, and the media is overloading you with information. And you're right, we're literally having to swim through a plethora of BS, you know, whether it's good or bad BS. And my reason for getting into this was because of the idea of this new movement that is going to be these new libertarians who are creating their own currency and this cryptographic blockchain, you know, that anybody can look at the public ledger and see, you know, is this really true? Is it evident in this technology? But more so the fact that this is a movement, and it's affecting you, it's affecting me, and it's affecting big people. And we're all part of it. And if you can just put in one good thing into it, that would be the best. You don't need to try to learn it all or write books about it or, you know, down other people for being for the system that's obviously falling apart. But you can give them the option and the information and just reach out to people, because it is all about people. We've got the technology, we've got the space, but we need the people. It's all about the people. It's all about connecting. And if I think that one thing I could take away and give to everybody is that just find something in your life or somebody that's not you. Take yourself out of the equation. I put myself in the equation of my wife and daughter, or my wife and my son, excuse me. I look at them. If I ever leave, I want to leave my son and my wife all of my assets, and I want them to be able to if the system crashes, to them to be able to survive. Because if the system does crash and Bitcoin starts to becoming the #1 currency and people are working jobs gaining fiat still, it's going to be pretty hard for those people gaining fiat still, because look at how much Bitcoin has come up since 2009, and it's crazy. So I think we need people, and that's what we need right now more than anything else.
I want to touch on that because we've been talking about Bitcoin, and when you discovered Bitcoin, how much better it made you feel. And I have a son with a disability. So when I was younger and I didn't know about Bitcoin, it was not a good situation, because if anything were to happen to me, no matter how much fiat I had in the bank, the odds that was going to be enough to take care of him in perpetuity were almost certainly zero. And that is not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling to know that no matter what you do, no matter how hard you work, that your son, who is going to need help, won't have you around to help him, and that there's no place to park your money where it's going to be safe. And Bitcoin absolutely shattered the fuck out of that trap. And it's the people's key. And I'm extremely impressed by Bitcoin. And but it also, it's money. I mean, it's money, and money isn't everything in life. I mean, life is hard. Just because we have different challenges now doesn't mean that they're any less challenging than like the Shawshank Redemption of, you know, crawling through the shit and piss to try to survive. Life is hard. Life is a challenge, and getting through the age of information is going to be a challenge. And if you're not ready, if you're not powerful, if you're not ready to face reality, it's going to beat you to your knees and it's going to defeat you. So everybody, be ready to live your life. The purpose of life is to be alive, and Bitcoin is fantastic, but don't forget the purpose of life.
Yeah, and touching on what you were saying, what you both were saying, I talked with Pamela Morgan recently. She's got a new book out called Crypto Assets Inheritance Planning. A simple guide for inheritance planning with crypto, and it is a really important subject. It's something that not enough people think about or talk about, because death is an extremely scary thing for a lot of people. We don't like to think about it, but the fact of the matter is, it's going to happen to all of us, and at certain time. And why, you know, we have some examples of people passing away. There was a guy recently who passed away and left, and $500 million worth of crypto is gone. So make sure you get your inheritance properly sorted out. And there are really good ways of doing that, where you don't need to give someone your private keys. You can still do that. And that's why I think Pamela Morgan's book is really good, a good read for that.
Definitely, Josh. We don't want to end up like that $500 million guy. But thank you so much, Ricardo, for the good call and a good conversation. We had you on the morning show too. But I think we're going to want to open up the call lines to get maybe 1 or 2 more calls in here. Anything to say in closing, Ricardo? Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you guys. The castings are always, I always pick up stuff. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I hope that everybody reaches out to one person they really care about, even if it's really hard. Take it in you to reach out, be a human being, make mistakes, you know, call your faults, and more so just tell somebody you care about them, and that you know, if you really care about Bitcoin cryptocurrency, that it's something you care about. You just by saying something that you care about gives them the feeling, you know, that feeling you get of the human being talking to another human being, that real feeling. So just I think everybody should just take it amongst themselves to just do one thing, and this weekend to just reach out to somebody, anybody, good or bad. It doesn't have to be somebody in your family. It could be your bartender, whoever. And just, you know, have a moment, just have a humanly moment, and with no tech, and see where you go. And that's it. I appreciate you, what you're doing, guys, and keep going and do what you're doing.
Thanks for calling in, man, and for all your recent contributions. We really appreciate it.
Bon soiree, bon weekend.
All right, and it looks like we're going straight to another call. Hello, caller, you're live on the World Crypto Network. Might not be working. What's your name and where are you calling from? Skype says try updating your audio drivers.
Is it Boss Lady? I know that.
She was calling earlier. Why don't you just call us right back? I think maybe it got confused because I tried to answer it while I was still on a call, and that was too much for Skype. So we don't want to overstress the Skype system. Remember, Microsoft did buy Skype, was a perfectly good independent telecommunications company, and then it became Microsoft's. So.
The only product that Microsoft makes that doesn't suck is the Microsoft vacuum cleaner.
That took me a second.
But I still like Wunderlist. That's been pretty good. I'm trying to use that. I don't know if I need to quit Skype. Okay, I'm gonna quit Skype too, because I've used Microsoft products before. So turning them off and on again almost always fixes them. But Wunderlist, I miss Sunrise, the calendar program that they bought and killed. It was a wonderful program. It would link your Meetup with your Facebook, with your Google Calendar, with your Microsoft, with your Apple Calendar, all your calendars together. And they're like, we're going to build this into Outlook. We're going to bring you into Outlook.com. I checked. They never did. They just swallowed those guys up.
There's like the software graveyard of like Real Player and Bonsai Buddy and all the shit that just, I guess Bonsai Buddy was never really good, but Real Player was good at one point, and then it became literally unusable.
They've done pretty well with Minecraft, I guess. Minecraft is still all right.
But it is a problem when they take something really great and just buy the engineers. That's basically why they buy it up and they destroy something that's really great.
Right. We're trying to call the caller back. Doesn't always work. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network, the show that calls you.
You're on it. I appreciate that. I'm excited to talk with you guys because I'm really actually tired of talking. Like I'm literally talking to you guys in the chat, and I'm calling in live, and I'm also creating this Patreon page. And I wanted to invite you, Thomas, to share in some of the shows that I'm doing, because I know that you've been doing this for a while, and it's not always easy to reach sponsors and connect with good people. So like we can actually like meet up this week. Like let's literally connect with people in the chat, and we can see what we're working on.
That sounds great, and I think we should all be going to some meetups. And I also like the idea you mentioned earlier that maybe one meetup could call another meetup, maybe just video chat. You said VR, that sounds like a lot of work, but if we just video chatted with each other, that would be pretty cool. We could do right on our phone.
Cryptocurrency miners, we set those up, and they actually power the VR gaming system. So it's really pretty cool. And then when they're doing VR, obviously the one person is playing the game, but what they're doing is visible, like in 3D screens and high definition screens behind them, and on the walls, so that anybody that's there can also see them.
That's
and
pretty cool.
If you're participating online, you can see it as well in 3D, and just using your phone or whatever. But this is stuff that we're doing already. This isn't like just talking about it. So I said, well, how can I connect with people and like actually do just increase our network. So I've been following the show for a long time now, so it's just pretty cool. I'm excited. I'm fangirling a little bit here.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for calling in. Yeah, we've seen your comments for a long time on the show, and we were very excited, or at least I can't speak for anybody but myself, but I was very excited that you called in, and then the call dropped, and then I was very sad, and then we called you back and you answered, and then the jubilance was recaptured.
It's cool. I love to connect with you guys just on a deeper level, because I think we're all doing things parallel to each other in different parts of the world without knowing that each other is doing that same thing, just knowing that it needs to be done. And so if now we can find out, hey, we were moving in parallel organically all along, I think that those are the best relationships that I've found, in the space. Like my co-founder, Lauren Slade, I just want to shout her out really quick. She actually, I'll be interviewing her next. And so I hear in the chat there, or I see in the chat there, like talking about we need more women in the space. And yes, like we're here. We just don't communicate that well with each other the way that we're doing it. It's been good for a while. Like I recognize Vention 1, MGTO. I know that it has something to do with cars, but I don't really know you. But I heard somebody talking about it on the stream. I'm here all the time. Like this is what I'm doing, and I have the kids doing it with me. Like I'm starting this week. We're going to a co-working space in Tampa. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling on, but I want to invite you to our, to our space and to maybe participate in VR this week. We're going to have the kids do a podcast. And Thomas, I was going to see maybe my son, Aiden. He's 8. He loves that Bitcoin Billy book that Naomi Brockwell co-authored. I don't know if you're familiar.
I didn't know that Naomi Rockwell wrote a book. That's really cool that she wrote one and that your 8-year-old really likes it. I think that's an amazing way to reach people that are possibly too young to get into the hyper technical nerdy stuff that we produce. So that's really cool.
I'm glad you said that. I really I enjoyed the book a lot, and it just explains, he could just relate to it. He reads it to his little brother, and so yeah, I wanted to see, maybe we're going to record it in the podcast studio at Block Space's co-working space, which are, they're legends, by the way. We'll talk about them in a minute. But yeah, we're going to be hosting some podcasts. Like, I have maybe like 20 podcasts.
Can you make sure that you talk into your mic? We're losing a little bit of the volume here.
Oh, is that better?
Yep, that's much better.
Yeah, I can turn you up a little bit. So yeah, I'm just sorry. I'm so excited. Yeah, I'm so excited. We can get some headsets out to people. We have cardboard Google goggles or whatever for the kids. It makes it more interactive for them, and more hands-on. Like these days, that's how we're learning. I I took my kids out of school. My 8-year-old, he's not going back to public school next year.
I think that there's definitely a space for doing that. There's some really good curriculums too. I think Ron Paul has a homeschool curriculum. I think that Tom Woods possibly has a homeschool curriculum, and teaching your kids on a one-to-one basis while you also learn. There's that feedback loop of teaching your kids and staying home and interacting with your kids and being like, 250,000 years ago, like the monkey in the jungle, teaching your kid that honeysuckle is good to eat versus not. I think that's such a more natural way of rearing children. And I think that children that are homeschooled one-on-one turn out much better. So I'm very, very happy to hear you say that.
Yes, it's like I'm sorry. I'm actually like losing my voice, I think, from just calling on the phone with so many just movers and shakers and pioneers in the space. It takes a lot of work to do these events. This is something that we dedicate full time to, and that's what we want to like set out for our children. We want to teach them that.
Oh no, your microphone went underwater again somehow.
Oh.
Yeah, I think homeschooling is an interesting one. I think the problem with homeschooling is a lot of people feel like they can just teach their kids, but there is a real art and skill, not art, but a science and a skill of teaching. Teachers learn teaching because teaching is also very hard, and not to say that people can't do it. A lot of people can, and not to say that public school is very good at it, because it's not. But I think the best thing that homeschoolers can do is really get groups of people together that want to homeschool and find very, very good teachers that can come in and teach, and have a bit more of a free market amongst teachers.
Absolutely. You weaponize the educational landscape of what you can teach your kids. If you have somebody that's like a carpenter professionally come and teach them about engineering and architecture, or a computer scientist, teach them about computers and stuff like that. Because a computer scientist that breaks something down into the most simple terms, and they're teaching kids something that's going to lend towards more complexity later, that's naturally already set up to build on top of later on, that's way, way, way better than having a whole bunch of similes and examples that really kind of don't fit in with what they're going to learn later. And normal mainstream teachers are guilty of doing that all the time. I remember how many different times I had to go back and relearn what I was learning in math because of these bad examples that were being used. Mm-hmm. So I think you're right. Homeschooling has a tremendous amount of value if you commit to it, if you're not flippant about it, if you really, really, really do the work and teach your kids, and then the value of it really blooms. And a part of that is getting subject matter experts to help them learn certain things. I really agree with that.
Yeah, and another cool trick to use is to allow kids to teach other kids. As soon as you say, "Hey, Billy, you're going to have to teach this tomorrow to that group, so make sure you learn this really well. Here, let's go through it and teach you how." And you'll be surprised how much more they really want to learn it if they really know that they're going to have to teach that and pass that knowledge on. And this goes back to ancient traditions of passing on information, where really it's deep ingrained in our DNA to want to do so.
And arguably the best way to learn something is to teach it to somebody else. Like you will learn something pretty well if you read it, and then if you write it down, it's crossing the corpus callosum because it's going from one side of your brain to the other because you have to actually write it down. But the true traversing of the corpus callosum, left and right brain having to work in full concert, is when you think about somebody else's situation and where they're coming from and how to feed that information into them. Your ability to understand the information becomes almost supercharged. So I think that you're absolutely correct. It's not only the motivation that I'm going to have to do something, I'm going to be important, but also just the way that the brain works. Putting information through it in that way is extremely valuable.
It's actually a really good way also to not stay dogmatic by doing that. Because if you're very, very sold on one concept and you're just arguing with someone else, let's say with your significant other, you're having an argument, you could go off and try to just learn what their argument is and try to maybe play the devil's advocate on your side. And you start to think, like you said, the paths cross over and you can sometimes see things in another way. It's kind of an off-topic thing there, but yeah, the caller has spawned some interesting conversation.
Yep, and thanks so much for your call. Anything else to say, Summer?
Is that me? Can you hear me?
Yep.
We got you back.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I love what you guys are saying. It's kind of weird because it's almost like you're looking at my notebooks that are in front of me by the computer that I'm writing in as we talk, and I almost feel like you're reading what I have written. So it was kind of like a weird moment there, but it was really special, and it's awesome. I definitely want to connect with you further and get and really what I want to do, since we've gotten to know each other through the chats and through these calls, but for our kids to connect, because I think that once we have like Skillshare meetings is what we call it, and twice weekly the kids will get together and share their skill, whether it be playing the piano or math, algebra, or if it's reading a book, teaching them how they got a proposal funded. And when it comes to the older teenagers, we definitely have kind of steered away from the college route. My daughter, instead of going to college, she's going to work with us and earn crypto. And Tizen, he has like this a girl that he's working with, her name is Casey. In 4 years she wants to become a millionaire, and that's they're documenting that. And so my daughter has the opportunity, instead of going to college for 4 years, we're going to just kind of like see, well, maybe she can do something something else. And so there's so many opportunities out there. And if anybody can relate to that, has kids that want to branch out and share their skills and learn new skills, then I definitely have like a place that I would love to connect them with. And for example, another example, my 8-year-old and like the other children, my 4-year-old as well, they're going to go on a field trip to the Apple store. I don't know if you guys know about this. I literally found out about this last night. But I guess the Apple stores, there are malls. There's like a few, 3 in our area, and the one in Tampa, which I'm going to go to this week. They do like field trips, free field trips. So just put your homeschooling your kids. You bring, obviously not just my kids are going. I'm going to connect with some other people in the area. Hopefully, Jason King. I know you guys probably know him. Founder of Unsung and the Blockchain Academy.
He's got an awesome beard.
Got an awesome beard. Yes, very established.
Yes. So yeah, he's actually in Orlando now.
That's very cool. Yeah, I know Jason King. He's a really nice guy. He has kids, and I have kids, so we get to geek out about our kids, which is always fun.
And he's got a pilot's license. That's always nice.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Summer, for the call. Sounds like a great field trip to the Apple store there. Should be all good.
I'm not going to hog the time, but yeah, there's definitely, cool opportunities. If anybody wants to do like a field trip and like coordinate with their kids in their local area, we would love to do just like how we're doing with our meetups to, obviously the kids take to these VR, they take to it much better than I do. I don't, I sometimes will get dizzy or, maybe not, I won't fall in love with it like I've seen these, kids do. So yeah, the kids can get together and learn from each other, and that would be really cool. Learn in 3D VR. We're working with History View.
Very cool.
Have you heard of them?
Only from you.
Oh, really? They tweet me a lot. But yeah, those guys are great, and they just started creating content like from the content they found on our website. They just reached out and started adding value to what we were doing, and now they taught us, like, just from connections that we made with their employees are really friendly and knowledgeable, and they're actually have equipment that the kids can just have in their classroom and add on to their phone. And it's really easy to use. And now the kids are starting to build things on top of that. They're learning to code, like with Vincent, from the former Gigolo in Vegas. You're in Vegas, right?
Yep, I'm in Vegas right now.
Yeah. Vin Armani, he has a learn to code, a code from Go is what it's called. So yeah, the kids are going to be learning to code.
I think that's probably the most important language a kid can learn is to code.
If their kid would be interested in mining, that would be cool. They power the VR gaming rigs. It's like super nerdy, but I don't know. We're having a lot of fun. Like today, right now, and this week, and like this is what we've been doing, and so I'm happy to share it with you guys. And I'm going to stop hogging the call now, but yeah, awesome.
All right, thanks so much, Summer, for the call. Give us a call anytime.
Thank you, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
And I think we've been on for at least 2 hours now, and I was probably on for 2 hours this morning. So I think we're going to head towards the door here. So we'll just go to Josh and then Blake. Josh, anything in closing that you want to say? And, don't forget to tell us where you work and what you're working on. It's always important to let people promote their own projects. That's what this is about, partially.
Thanks very much, Thomas. Yeah, well, you can follow me at Twitter. On Twitter at Voltoro, that's Volt as in gold vault, and Oro as in Spanish for gold, ORO. And we're a trading platform between Bitcoin and physical allocated bullion. So exit fiat, and why go back to fiat when you can trade in and out of allocated physical bullion? And that's about it. We try to tweet and about all sorts of issues, including Ross Ulbricht, and we also co-host the Tatiana show with her, so you can keep an eye on that as well.
And just in case people are wondering, Josh isn't a sponsor of this show, but I watched that old video with the guy from LCD Sound System. You can Google James Murphy interview, and it's one of the first ones on there. And what he says is that you have to promote your friends, and you have to be a really good promoter of your friends, and they'll be a really good promoter of you. And so I'm just saying, like, in that way, I want Josh to mention where he works, because I want him to have a job and I want him to have more work. So thanks Josh,
a lot, man.
And thanks, Voltoro. And Blake, I know you're working on a super secret project, so you can never mention it, but tell us where the people can follow you on Twitter and so forth.
Well, I consult for several different companies, and I'm working on a project. I don't want to announce it before they're ready to talk about it. You can follow me on Twitter at Bitcoin Blake, or if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, it should be under Blake Anderson, and I connect with everybody. So if you want to connect and have me connect back, LinkedIn is the place to do that. Other than that, let's just not forget to not get distracted by the age of information, and let's have our attention, which is a scarce resource, be put towards meaningful things. And I think that the human race will be just fine.
Well, the dog is barking and the phone is ringing and my watch is vibrating, telling me to stand up. So I think we've done this more than enough. So I'm going to get to all of those things, but I hope you guys have a great Friday. I had a great time hanging out with you today. I watched a little World Cup. Thanks so much for the donations and supporting us on Patreon. Actually, I never got to read this guy's poem on the early show, so I'm gonna have to do that now because I just remembered. But on the Patreon, we have a community section, and I've been doing these little Snapchat type videos. So if you've been following us on Patreon, Mad Bitcoins, you got to see my new desk that I built from a box from Amazon. And Jeremy sent us this poem, and he suggested that you could add a stanza. So if you're a Mad Bitcoins Patreon, you can add a stanza, and I'll probably read it tomorrow. But here's Jeremy's poem at the end of today's show. A poem for Bitcoin. Defy, defy with a hungry buy. Don't just draw a sword. Wait and hoard. Smile, don't frown when the price is down. Resist, resist with a Bitcoin fist. by Jeremy Lucid. Thanks so much, Jeremy. Thanks to all the callers and everybody in the chat. Had a great time hanging out with you guys. Even the two of you who are fighting to the death. Try not to do that. Try to have some kind of peace in there. But thanks so much. And until next time, bye-bye.